We read this morning from the 10th chapter of Matthew as Jesus continues to teach his disciples. He who receives you receives me. And he who receives me receives the one who sent me. Anyone who receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. Anyone who receives a righteous man because he is a righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones because he is my disciple, verily I say to you, you will not lose your reward. A word from the Lord in the house. The rest of the story, right? We cut it off with a fire about to be built on an altar and no offering. We read on further, it would have said that he bound Isaac's feet and hands and placed them upon the fire. But and he took his knife, because the thing that they do with a burnt offering just before they burn it, of course, is they cut its throat and bleed it out. And Abraham took his knife and placed it at Isaac's throat. And the angel said, don't do that. How could he do that? How could he do that? Put his knife to his son's throat because God had said, now's the time. My faith ain't near that good. I would have rebelled on the way up the hill. I would have fought not to take that trip. I would have done anything I could not to go there. And in a lesser way, most of us have faced that same mountain and that same request from God. Give me just a little more. Give me just a little more than you're comfortable with. Give me just a little more than you want to give me. Give me just a little more than you're comfortable with. That's God's request every day. Most of us don't face a situation that is such that we're asked to put our children to death, maybe. But we're asked maybe to put our dreams to death. Maybe we're asked to put our hopes to death because God wants more from us. He never wants less. He never, ever wants less. Isn't that? It's a terrible story. Except if you read it all the way to the end, suddenly there's an animal to be sacrificed stuck in the bushes. How can we have enough faith to continue on in the path we're going, knowing that there's destruction ahead of us, and being sure that the response from God will be to set aside the danger? Oh, my faith isn't that good. I hedge my bets all the way. I slow down when I'm walking up that tough hill. I walk sideways. Maybe I back up the hill. But God asks us to keep on keeping on. But what a terrible story it is. I told you last week that was the worst one in the Bible, but this almost sounds worse unless you read the whole thing. And God doesn't show us the whole picture in our entire life. Oh, we get little bits and pieces. God's got a billion-piece puzzle. Can't think of the name. Picture puzzle. And we each got one little piece. But without our piece, God's picture is not complete. So whether you got a border piece or a center piece, and maybe you got a white piece in a field of white. We don't know what our piece happens to be. But we are part of the whole picture. We are part of what it is that God wants to make the world into. And each one of us has a piece to put into that puzzle so that it'll be a complete picture when God's time has come. No, ours probably won't be a picture so big that we are asked to sacrifice our children. But we may be asked to sacrifice a dream that wasn't really our dream in the first place, but one that was planted by someone else, one that was given by some other power. And we're asked to give it up to follow God. Give it up to worship Christ. Give it up. We are, as Paul wrote, we are slaves of something. You can be a slave to sin. You can be a slave to pleasure. Or you can be a slave to God. See, he doesn't equate being a slave with anything bad. He equates the master with being good or bad. And all through the Bible it talks about how we're expected to be good slaves. We're expected to obey the master. And then we finally come to this section where Paul writes it out very clearly that we are to be slaves to Christ. That's what our task is. And we're to present a picture of Christ to those around us so that everyone can see him. That's what Jesus said to his disciples. If you go out and you present me and people accept me, then I accept them. And if they accept Christ, they accept his Father, the Lord. But we're expected to present a face that appeals to people, a face that demonstrates to people the fantastic love that we have been given. The love of a God who would send Abraham up the mountain with a knife. I envy Abraham his faith. I envy him the ability to trust God that fully. Now, I trust God. I trust God totally. Absolutely. Almost. I hate those words that are so ending, like absolute and permanent and eternal, because we slide into those descriptions in a life that's not very solid. But he invites us this day to come and sit down and have a meal with him, to enjoy his company. I know we talked about the book before, The Dinner with a Perfect Stranger. And if you haven't read it, well, pick it up somewhere. It's a little bitty book about someone who found an invitation on her desk. And it said, "Have dinner with me," signed Jesus. And she didn't believe. What would you do if you got an invitation like that? Would you show up for dinner? There was a church that believed that at midnight Christ was going to come to their town. And there was one atheist in town who said, "You people are foolish. You people are stupid. You people are going to waste your time." But at 11:45 on that night, he showed up at the church. And they said, "Why are you here?" He said, "I could be wrong." We get fixed in our relationship as we see it. And we could be wrong. Maybe it's supposed to be or more like this. Because he wants us to present him to those around us. He wants us to prove to the world that he exists. And the only proof, we got a lot of books and a lot of things, but the true proof of whether Christ exists are you people here. You realize that? You are the ultimate truth, the ultimate proof, the ultimate evidence that Christ exists, that he lives again. And if you don't demonstrate it, someone will not know. Someone will not know the trust that Abraham had in the God who promised him everything, and then it looked like he was going to take it away. But in the end, ultimately gave him everything. 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 It's a ritual with us that we do sort of what Christ did with his disciples. For he sat with them, and as